From our News Nation headquarters in America's heartland, we begin this Wednesday with a historic constitutional ruling, taking a shot to President Trump's re-election bid.
Yeah, thanks for waking up with us, everybody. In a 4-3 decision, the Colorado Supreme Court declaring the former president is now ineligible for the highest office because he violated the Constitution on January 6, 2021. Those justices citing Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which says this: no person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of president and vice president or hold any office, civil or military, to support the Constitution of the United States, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same. Tom Dempsey is live in Washington with the swift reaction from the Trump campaign. Tom, good morning.
Good morning, Marky. This morning, the Trump campaign team says it will file an appeal to this 4-3 decision from the Colorado Supreme Court, disqualifying Mr. Trump from appearing on the state's the primary ballot and declaring him ineligible for the White House. Now, it's interesting to note, Mr. Trump did not comment directly on this ruling, but right here on News Nation, we spoke directly with former 2016 campaign manager Corey Lewandowski about this case. Take a listen.
The U.S. Supreme Court has to take this up immediately. The Colorado Supreme Court has put their decision on hold until January 4th to give the U.S. Supreme Court time. But what's amazing to me, Leland, here is Donald Trump has never been charged with an insurrection. He's never been on trial. He's never been even accused by Jack Smith, someone who has all of the resources of the federal government to go after Donald Trump. He's never been accused, charged, or convicted of this. So for the Supreme Court to rule in a 4-3 decision that Donald Trump is ineligible to be on the Colorado ballot only is going to drive this issue further.
This whole case in Colorado revolved around a lawsuit filed by 6 Republican and independent voters and whether or not the former president took part in an insurrection on January 6th. In this tight decision, the Colorado Supreme Court cited a provision in the Constitution dating all the way back to 1868, meant to prevent former Confederates or people who took part in an insurrection from holding office. In the court's majority decision, the state justices wrote, quote, "We do not reach these conclusions lightly. We are mindful of the magnitude and weight of the questions now before us. We are likewise mindful of our solemn duty to apply the law without fear or favor and without being swayed by public reaction to the decisions that the law mandates we reach." A big focus now will be on whether or not the Supreme Court decides to take an appeal to this case. Other states dealt with similar cases to the one in Colorado. In fact, in Minnesota, the state Supreme Court dismissed a lawsuit there and said anyone can be on a ballot. While in Michigan, a judge said Congress should be the ones to decide if former President Trump can stay on the ballot. And expect a very quick timeline with this moving forward because the Colorado election officers will be printing primary ballots in a little over 2 weeks. Guys?
Tom, thank you very much. Our team coverage on the Colorado ruling continues now with Emily Finn. She joins us from Iowa this morning, where she's monitoring the other GOP candidates' reactions to this ruling. Emily?
That's right, Adrian. We have seen an overwhelming show of support for former President Trump following Colorado's Supreme Court decision. All of the GOP candidates remaining in the race have rallied behind him, calling the historic move unfair and un-American. At a town hall event in Agency, Iowa last night, former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley said the last thing she wants to see is judges telling Americans who can and can't be on the ballot.
I will tell you that I don't think Donald Trump needs to be president. I think I need to be president. I think that's good for the country. But I will beat him fair and square. We don't need to have judges making these decisions. We need voters to make these decisions.
Over in New Hampshire, which, as we know, is the second in line primary after Iowa, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie said that he believes it would be bad for the country if Trump is barred from appearing on the ballot in Colorado, saying the former president needs to be put on trial for allegedly inciting an insurrection before his rights are taken away.
I do not believe Donald Trump should be prevented from being president of the United States by any court. I think he should be prevented from being president of the United States by the voters of this country.
Vivek Ramaswamy, who has been a staunch supporter of the former president, released a statement last night announcing that he is withdrawing from the Colorado GOP primary ballot altogether. Ramaswamy called on the other candidates to follow suit, calling the move by Colorado's Supreme Court unprecedented and an attack on democracy. And Florida Governor Ron DeSantis also released a statement calling on the Supreme Court of the United States to reverse Colorado's ruling. He accused the left of abusing judicial power to remove Trump from the ballot on what he believes is baseless grounds. So we will be hearing more from DeSantis voters today at a campaign event here in Urbandale. We'll be speaking with them. That is expected to get started in just a few hours. Adrienne and Markey?
Yeah, a lot of voters sounding off this morning. Emily, thank you. Let's talk about this further and keep unpacking it. Joining us now live is Ronald Chapman, federal defense attorney and author of Fight the Feds, Unraveling Federal Investigations. Ronald, thanks for joining us this morning. Just a stunning turn of events last night in the 2024 race. This is the first time the insurrection clause has been used to actually disqualify a presidential candidate. Similar efforts failed earlier this year in Michigan, Minnesota. What makes the case in Colorado different?
Well, the only thing that really makes the case in Colorado different is the fact that Colorado decided to have a 5-day trial. And during that 5-day trial, they decided the essential facts of insurrection and determined that Donald Trump was the cause of insurrection. As you just heard from Chris Christie, no court should really make that determination unless there is a prosecution of Donald Trump and a conviction, or by potential impeachment. But Colorado did something different than the other courts, and they decided to have their own trial and make that determination, which did make the case ripe for Supreme Court review. I expect this case will get fast-tracked to the Supreme Court.
And speaking of, just the specifics of this case, as I was looking into it, I found it really surprising that this was filed in a district court in Denver by 6 voters. What was surprising, it was 4 Republicans and 2 independents, not a Democrat in that group. They sued with the help of a watchdog group. They argued that having Trump's name on the ballot would siphon support from their preferred candidates. What did you make of it, that there was not a Democrat in that group who originally filed back in September? And do you think their argument held more weight because of that?
Well, I think that's what they say, that they're a group of Republicans and independent voters, but who really knows? I mean, they are backing this lawsuit. I think the really interesting thing about this is the case was originally removed to federal court, just like most of these types of cases, but then it was later kicked back down because the Secretary of State in Colorado did not want to join the removal, and that's why it filtered through the state court. So the fact that it's from Republicans may arguably give it a little bit more standing because it's not from Democrats, but I don't think that really goes too far with the Supreme Court when they eventually hear the case.
Looking into your crystal ball, and as we move forward here, because I know a lot of Americans waking up with a lot of questions this morning, of course, as we just heard in our previous reports from our correspondents on the ground, the Trump campaign vowed a swift appeal to this decision. The High Court is holding their ruling pending that appeal. What are the odds the Supreme Court upholds Colorado's decision, and where does this head from here?
And this is a very interesting question. First, Justice Gorsuch is the 10th Circuit justice, so he's going to have a first crack at this and be able to determine on his own whether or not a stay should be extended past January 4th. The only thing Gorsuch would need to do if he wants to is extend the stay further out than the ballot printing deadline or the primary deadline, and then this case is moot, meaning it can't really be decided. Or Justice Gorsuch could kick it to the total court and look for 5 votes to continue the stay here and resolve the question of whether or not he should be on the actual election ballot after full briefing and argument. And I expect that's what the Supreme Court will do. Wait for full briefing and argument on the myriad of issues we have and make a
decision from there. Sorry, we lost you for a brief second there. Yeah, I know a lot of people also thinking this raises the question, what kind of precedent does this set if this, in fact, is ruled and moves forward from here and he is off that ballot for 2024. Ronald Chapman, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
Adrienne, over to you.